My name is Scarlett Amezcua.
Hi, my name is Bao Wu Ing.
Yoska Hapton.
I am Egypt Adams.
And I'm Jasmine Cho.
We read the books Heavy and
Medical Bondage.
The book Heavy, an American memoir, Keith Lehman writes a personal story that reflects both on the state of American society and his experience with abuse. He is able to express many different feelings of shame, joy, confusion, and humiliation. In the book, he honestly writes about his life growing up as a hard-headed black son in Jackson, Mississippi, experiences of sexual violence, suspension from college, and his journey to New York as a young college professor. Throughout the book, he charts his complex relationship with his mother, grandmother, anorexia, obesity, sex, writing, and gambling.
Medical Bondage by Deirdre Cooper Owens touches on the history of medicine and gynecology, the history of the field of gynecology and how it relates to race and gender. Even though gynecology is a private practice around female gender, when talking about race within this practice in the 19th century, it reveals horrible and ugly truths about this field. In the 19th century, gynecologists would practice on enslaved black women because they believed the black enslaved women could withstand pain better than white ladies. So now we're going to have a discussion on both the books, starting with Medical Bondage. So basically how Medical Bondage was written, she talked about the 19th century and how enslaved black women were forced to work as nurses, and they were also experimented on. And the main focus of that was to make sure that the black women were fertile, so they were able to produce more African babies to be slaves for their masters.
So I don't know, we could talk about the social determinants in each book that affected the personal lives of, for example, like the main character of Heavy and the main character of Medical Bondage.
Well, I know towards the end, the author talked about how she was like infertile and they had to like move her uterus down or whatever. So it's just like a lot.
Okay, well, I know that in this book, he says a certain quote. He says something that like big boys teach big boys that teach big boys that to teach teach them how to be strong in a way. Do you remember that quote? Mm-hmm. And then, but they never talk about how black young women are supposed to be treated, or that they're not like that they'll be okay no matter what. Like, no matter how you treat them, they'll make it through because they're just like exceptionally different or something. There's this idea about young black women in this book.
The biggest trauma that I remember is like because his mom was abused by her boyfriend, and then that like made an effect on her child, and like her child due to that had to grow up like with a different life story and like have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean that's like most.
And if we look at that context of like why she was abused and why she was constantly there, there's like that social determinant again. Like there's this idea of the treatment of like black young women and how there's like they're expected to just be okay no matter what. Like no matter how you treat them, they'll be okay. So and that can come back to this certain specific like family that that idea has been implemented on her life. And
you can put that back into Medical Bondage.
And
yeah,
it's not just for black young women. It's like all young women in general, like all races, all women. Yeah, it's just women. They get abused by like all men.
Yeah,
because men have like a superiority over women, and a lot of women think that too. There's only like a few women that actually think they're like superior to their men and like try to get control of them. But they kind of just let the men take control, just because they grow up in that society. Yeah. Stereotypes.
And it's like the way she was dealing with the abuse that was going on in her life was by abusing her child. So it's like an abuse cycle that's like never ending in a way, and which affected him as a child, and like until he's a grown man, that his mother being abused affected everything, his like state of mind, his physical, emotional, and mental health, which goes.
Can we bring in the historical factor? Like, because there's a big thing on race here. And there's not a lot on like the historical factor, but maybe medical.
My friend had asked, do you think like the reason why like slaves were like abused and basically is like why black people act how they act today? Because like we're seen like as aggressive or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in a way, it relates back to that feeling of being inferior and the way you're supposed to act.
And about how black women today like die more than any other race women during birth giving.
Yeah.
And then how like back then we were like so focused on keeping them healthy and fertile, but now it's like
Black maternal mortality.
And it's higher than.
it's just like way over 100%.
Said no,
Are you
and then her appendix burst.
Wow.
I thought that was my
They
appendix.
do
That
not.
was my
They
appendix.
don't. No.
Yeah, they don't fucking listen.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I want to be a doctor. That's one of the reasons why.
So
They didn't do like ultrasounds and.
No, I was in school because if the pain happened like between first period to like third period, it stopped during third period. But it was Valentine's Day last year in 2018, and I was in class and it didn't stop. And then like I felt nauseous and dizzy, and so I felt like I was about to vomit. And so right when third period ended, I signed myself out of school, and then I had to take an Uber to the hospital. And then like I was throwing up, and it was like it really hurt. So then they like tested me and stuff, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we found white blood cells in your urine, and it turns out you have a kidney infection." So they gave me 4 shots in my butt.
Wow.
Yeah, but the doctor, because I usually get a physical for like track or whatever.
Mhm.
So the doctor who gave me the physical, I told him like I always have this sharp pain, and he was like, "Oh, you're just constipated. You just have to poop." And I'm like, "I'm pretty sure that's not what that is, but okay."
Wow.
same thing with my sister. They told her it was constipation, and my mom told them make sure you check her appendix because she's saying the pain is where the appendix
Yeah.
usually is. And they're like, no, it's not. They gave her constipation medication, sent her home. The next day she came back. My mom's like, again, check. So they did an ultrasound. They're like, oh, she's fine. I don't think they like paid attention to it very much. They're just like, it's fine. Just send her home. It's just constipation. Third time around, my sister is like in pain, ready to faint, and my mom is like, you better check. Like, it's definitely her appendix. She wouldn't be in this much pain if it was just constipation. And then they checked, and it was like right when they were checking, it popped. And she almost died in the surgery because they didn't listen to my mom. They were just like, oh, it's fine. It's just constipation. Not like, and disregarded anything that she might know anything about, like appendix or like that she might have had some kind of previous experience with it.
Yeah, my doctor was like, you could have died of septic shock. And then the funny thing is, you know how like they really want to like put women in like nursing, like they like tell them, oh, like don't be a doctor, be a nurse or something like that. The same like just black women, like women in general. So it's like they don't like hear us when we actually like know things that are wrong, you know?
That's interesting, especially in the historical context of this book, because it's like I want to bring back that one point about how he said he has this idea of how women should be treated, you know, and how black women in particular like don't have to be taken care of. They'll figure it out. They'll be okay no matter what. And that goes into the historical context of how women were treated in like before they were preserved for their fertility, so they could.
Yeah, like even in medical bondage, they use the black women as like nurses, even though they were supposed to seem like inferior and uneducated. But you have them in the medical field doing work on other people. So that whole concept is just mind blowing. Like we're not educated, but we're educated enough to help you during like.
Yeah. And like especially the point that you brought up, that one point about like how they used to be taken care of for their fertility, and like they were used like that, and then later on now there's black
Mortality rates during birth.
black mortality rates. It's just like that flip flop comes back to this idea that they'll always be okay, you know.
Relating that back to Heavy and how he was the abuse that his mother went through, she put on him. He was dealing with that abuse rather than continuing the cycle. He was using food to like heal his emotions and his pain from his mother's abuse, from society's like expectations, and like putting him down, and like the heaviness he felt as like a black young man in the South. And I think it's interesting that his relationship with food is so connected throughout the book, that at one point he said, like people might fight back. If he got angry and got into a fight with somebody, they would fight back, but cake could never fight back. And he could like just eat the cake and get over it, kind of in a way, and drown himself, like push down the emotions and the anger that he felt by the sweets and the food, just suppress everything down.
So in medical bondage, there was this one part where it talked about this one girl that got raped, and going off of your how society judges you and stuff. She wasn't able to she didn't tell everyone. So once they examined her body, they found out she had a lot of symptoms like diarrhea and everything, which is kind of
Yeah, the book was really gruesome for entering that into it. It just talked about her rape, and then the diarrhea part was just intense. And he talked about how her anus was red. Oh,
and there was a lot of
it was too much. Mm-hmm. But it gave you the reality of what it was and what it I can't do that.
I think that's the one thing the books seem to do.
They were really in depth with it.
They're very graphic. They didn't leave anything out. They told it like it is, and didn't try to soften the blow like most books are.
Yeah.
Which I think is really good for people to actually understand, because sometimes they don't understand the full grasp of what happens, especially
and why it happens.
Yeah.
There's this historical chain reaction causing these stories, causing people to suffer now in personal moments, It's nobody ever grasps the historical context or the reasons behind why people are reacting like this, Why people are treated like this, why in hospitals certain people are treated differently than others, Everybody's sort of that's why we need stories like this that are gruesome and explicit to really get this message forward now.
And it's a lot harder to, when a person reads something like this, if it's sugar-coated and printed up, it's easy to be oh, okay, and forget about it. But you'll never forget the graphic images that the words brought up in your head when you were reading this, and you will not, which means you won't forget the stories, and it will kind of start breaking down those stereotypes and boundaries and just things that are tightening this down.
We need representation of these narratives,
And it's with the whole hospital situation, it's not it happens to people who are from low income areas or anything. Because even Serena Williams had a problem when she was giving birth, and then my thing is I have insurance from both of my parents, so it's I could afford the tests that were needed when it was time. So it's just you don't listen.
Yeah.
We can talk about the title and how it relates.
Heavy. I thought you talked about that.
Heavy is it encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses how heavy he was. Physically, he was heavy because he was using food to deal with the pain. At home, he felt heavy because he had to deal with his mother's not only abuse but expectation of perfection, because she wanted him to be perfect, so he can't be hurt outside in the world by the white people that surround him. He had to prove that he was not a dumb black kid. So he felt that pressure from needing to be perfect, or needing to, for example, while he was in college in class, he couldn't be like the other students and just ask stupid questions and make a comment. He had to think about it and make an articulate argument.
It was
because
the right question.
And the right question, it had to be said correctly in the correct grammar and not mess up like the other kids. Because in a way, when he says it, when a white kid says it, it's fine. If the question is stupid,
a lot of it off, they'll shut it off.
But when a black kid says it, it's a representation of the whole community.
Yeah.
So he felt he had to represent he said my people. He had to make comments, ask questions that could represent well on his people.
And the way
that is heavy.
What's crazy? I'm even gonna say this, but I don't ask questions in class because of that. I don't want to seem dumb or anything, but it's I will generally be confused and okay, whatever. And then people would just be asking questions and questions. I'm should I ask, or will I get made fun of because I don't understand a simple concept?
Yeah, I know.
You should kind of wait for that one person to ask, and you realize everyone had that question, but you didn't want to ask. Nobody wanted to ask to that one person. It's usually the smart person that
I
asks.
feel people really do look down on you though. I no matter what, because sometimes my accent comes out a little bit, with my family, and it comes out in class or in a group, and if I start asking questions, they look at me like you're dumb or something, and I'm no.
But you always have to remember, think about it, when someone asks a question in class, a dumb question, once you leave the classroom, you won't remember. So nobody's gonna remember your question.
It's true. I know when
You're not really, in a way, you're not really that prevalent in their minds. Like your question is not gonna, it's not gonna be like.
And then the title for medical bondage, I think, comes from, like, bondage means restraint or, like, being, like, tied up or whatever. So that correlates with, like, how the women were, like, forced to do things, like, slave-wise, like, shackles and stuff. And then, like, the medical part came into, like, them being, like, gynecologists and stuff.
I think what was interesting was from your book, it seemed like the women were being used as like little factories to make slave babies that will later, it's like they're not even thought as people or women that are giving birth, but like
It's like livestock. Yeah.
Kind of.
But I, like, read, too, that they didn't even see them as human. They were just there to do work. But the whole gist of slavery was, like, not just work. It was, like, more into, like, you're abusing them, treating them like they were lower than dirt. Like, not even, like, dirt, like, lower than dirt.
And that huge, like, historical concept is, like, the reason why people are treated like that today. You know, it's
all connected.
Yeah.
That's not a separate thing.
Like, it's not even like history repeats itself. Like, it's still been going on. It's not like it stopped.
History
and then it started.
continues.
It's continues, yeah.
Yeah, it's just morphing
Yes.
to like modernism.
Yeah.
You know?
That is so right. You are absolutely right. Like, it's really like, we see it as like not the norm, but like the norm. Like, back then, slavery was seen as the norm, and like us today, we think like that was
Black
terrible.
maternal mortality.
But even like now, it's still like terrible when you actually like, really think about it.
And slavery is technically still not over. It's just in a different form.
Yeah.
Where it's legalized even more, which is in a way worse because back then you could see it out in the open and everybody could make the decision for themselves. Now it's hidden like prisons, and so you can't see it. Like the average person can't see it.
And then the funny thing is, no one like now like recognizes it. Like they would probably have to make movies about it and stuff. And then like you see how like we watch like movies about slavery. We didn't grasp that concept until we actually like physically saw what was happening. So until people actually physically see and understand what's happening now, no one will really understand.
Yeah, and it explains a lot of these defensive behaviors, such as his mother, like making him like write those essays, read those books, read the encyclopedias, correct his grammar to perfection. Because in the book he literally says it's like a protection against the white man. Like that's literally what he says right now, and it's just like. It gives explanation to why people behave the way they do, and a lot of people think like sometimes if a black person is like acting too white because there's that idea of being white, but there's a reason they're just like defending themselves. You know, there's a reason
they're trying to fit in.
It's sad, but it is in a way defense.
Yeah.
You know,
it is
trying to get the least amount of
like trying to get exception.
Yeah.
And so like we won't be harassed or.
Trying to like move up the ladder
Yeah.
because there's no other way, you know. That's just the background and explains a little bit of his story, you know.
I don't know if you guys remember back, but while he was in college, his writing, he got in trouble for plagiarizing because he used this big vocab word, which shows like the expectation they had of him.
Yeah,
And he got it multiple times. Multiple black kids were called out because they used like higher than what the teachers expected. And it makes sense why his vocab was higher, his diction was so much like at another level because his mom made sure it was. But she thought it would protect him, but in a way it made him a victim because he's exceeding the teacher's expectations, which means he is
Like they already had a stereotype.
Yeah. His mom made it so he could break those stereotypes, but in a way like they made it so like he couldn't.
It's a cycle
Impossible.
of constant consequences for like innocent people. It's frustrating.
I mean, mainly it like focuses on like the race-wise, like black people in medical bondage too. And I just want to know like why is the main focus on black people all the time? I mean, I understand like being black, it's like
that is part because he's black, so that's his story.
yeah.
So that's the main focus. I would love to learn about like Mexican representation, but they don't.
I mean, I think like as like a black person, they want people to understand and to know. So like you being Mexican, like you would probably have to find like authors or like just people like in general who like have a story and like actually want people to like hear it. Because you know a lot of people just keep things to themselves, like personal reasons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I know like a lot of Black people do want like others to understand what's actually happening to them and what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's still like sometimes it's like weird, like actually like hearing.
I mean, it's
like focusing on things
because it hits close to home. That's why you're saying, why are we doing this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because if it's too close to home, it's affecting your people, our people, you know. So it's gonna feel uncomfortable. But what I've learned is like you have to suck it up, even though you know this. I know this. I think all of us know most of this information. There are people who are completely oblivious to it, and I noticed that, like, for example, in high school, we would discuss about why you should say, like, there was an assembly about why you don't say the N-word, for example. And there were 3 reactions. People who were like, oh my God, I didn't know that. People who were saying, oh, okay, whatever. And people were saying, they're just overreacting.
Yeah.
So there's like these reactions, and for the people who were saying I don't know, we were able to educate them.
You know? Yeah, that happened in my writing class like this quarter. We had to do music presentations, and then some of the kids did theirs on like hip hop and like why like it's being used and why other races shouldn't say it. And then 2 boys literally had to ask, why isn't it okay? One of them was African American, which was like really a shock, like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And then the other was Asian. Then he referenced back why some African Americans use like racial slurs towards like Asians, like chink or whatever. I'm like, those are like individual like people who do that, like not African Americans as a whole do. You see more like a bigger group of another race using like the N-word than like you do with Black people using another like racial slur, in my opinion. That's just what I grew up seeing, especially because I'm from California. It's like really diverse down there. So we have to educate all our friends that weren't like Black. Like, please just don't say it around us. Like, you say it around your friends, we don't hear it, whatever, we don't hear it. But like, you saying it around us and we're not comfortable with you saying it. They understood that, which is good because it's like, some people are really ignorant with the topic, like, oh, I can say whatever I want to say, it's a free country type of thing. Like with the whole MAGA hat, like, you should know not to wear it, like around certain people.
Yeah.
Like you wear it around your friends, it's good for you, but like around a Black community or just anyone who's not comfortable with the hat, don't do it. It's just common sense, basically.
So it goes back to why we're doing this, you know? See, like, they didn't know. The good thing is they didn't know, they asked. They got educated, now they know. And in a way that you're breaking down that like stereotype and that connotation a little bit more.
I mean, I guess you can say medical bondage kind of represents like privilege because they were slaves and they were like used and abused basically by white people. So that was white privilege.
I want to take a little bit of the load off because I know that this is a topic that hits close to home. So because I personally I can see the difference in treatment personally, like with my own family. Like I have lighter skin, and my family and my sisters they have darker skin as like Latinas. They're just darker skin, and you can literally see the difference in treatment in the doctors just because of my lighter skin. You know, it's like I'm the same. I was raised the same. I speak the same. We're the same people basically. But yeah, I get treated a little bit differently, and that's just straight from my own family, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah, I even have friends who are like from Pakistan, and they're like dark, like. But one of them, like, she was like, yeah, I'm lighter than my sister, so I'm seen as, like, more beautiful, like, I'm, like, more, like, generalized, like, as pretty than they are. So, I just think that's, like, a weird concept, too. It's, like, what is it called, like, European beauty or something? No, like, colorism, too, but it's, like, they want people to, like, have a specific image. Like, you know how, like, you see, like, old paintings and, like, all pale-skinned people? It's like that. Like, they think, like, pale skin is beautiful skin.
And it's not just, like, the white community or Caucasians that
It's
think
every
that.
community.
It's like even within
Black community, like
I'm
white
the lightest
skin.
in my family, for example, and everyone's just like, oh, you look like it's just appreciated, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like
Overall, in this book, Heavy, it really brought this historical consequences back into an individual story, like coming into modern day, and I think that was really important for us to read.
And then I feel like medical bondage had a very important concept with history too, because I did not know that they used African slave women like as baby making machines and as like nurses too when they were seen as inferior. So overall, both of the books had a great educational concept to them, and they were very broad and like not a broad concept, but like they had a like certain like idea of how like Black people are seen and treated, and it just gave us like a greater like perspective on the whole situation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.